What's up, Ragin Nation? This is Alex Jr. You're watching the Ragin Ronin review, and in this video I'm gonna review Clash of the 300 Titans. Actually, no, I'm gonna review the Immortals. When I first saw the trailer for Immortals, I was thinking, wow, this looks a lot like 300. And a lot of people are comparing it to 300, but it really isn't. It's more like the story of Clash of the Titans meets the visual style of 300. If you've seen Clash of the Titans, you've seen this movie. Story-wise, nothing new. Characters, you got Henry Cavill. He plays Theseus, and he's a lot like Perseus. He has no faith in the gods, just like Perseus, and then later on, he gets all this help from the gods, just like Perseus, and then eventually, he fights a battle for the gods. So there's Theseus for you in a nutshell. And then you have King Hyperion, played by Mickey Rourke, who is just a really mean villain. He's pretty scary. He's a character that you don't want to mess with. Even if you are already one of his minions, like, he'll tear you apart. So he's kind of scary in that sense. I think a lot of people will agree with me when I say that the movie needed a little bit more action before its climactic battle. Because you got all these little like drama scenes, and then it's followed by little action bits. Now, the action pieces are actually pretty cool. Actually, they're visually spectacular. Not uber spectacular, but still pretty cool in the sense that, okay, this is something new. Like, these are some really well choreographed fight scenes. But then they're really short-lived. Like, you really want more. And it's just not enough for you to feel that it's really a complete action scene. You're just thinking, wow, that was it? So you get a lot of these little action bits. And because of that, you want more. And like before the climactic battle, I was just thinking, wow, I hope they have like more action. When is the big action scene going to come? I really, really hope the final battle makes up for the rest of the movie. I really hope it does. Even though the scenes are really cool, like in those little action pieces, I'm just thinking, man, they could be longer or they could use one more. I don't know which one I would rather have. Maybe longer action pieces. And unfortunately, that was a bit of a failure in the movie because it affects the pacing. It's almost to the point where you want so much more action that you don't care for the little bits of drama in between. Because Theseus, he's kind of a weak character. I don't mean like physically, but he doesn't have that big of a screen presence. Maybe because he's an unknown or his charisma's not there. I mean, he is no King Leonidas. And the theatrical trailer actually marketed the movie like a 300, and it showed off Theseus being like a King Leonidas, which he totally isn't. But when it got to the final climactic battle, which is what we're all waiting for, it is pretty awesome. It is something else. Like, it's something that we've never really seen before because it is brutal, but it is just like, it's like cartoon violence, but it is really, really brutal. And I love it. I think that kind of made up for the movie. I won't say that it fully made up for the movie, but it did in a sense where you feel that, okay, that's just enough to keep me content. There's a lot of that kind of a 300 fast-mo, slow-mo effect, and they use that a lot, but it works. It's just totally visually stunning, and that fight scene was just really, really incredible. And speaking of fight scenes, I gotta mention that this is an R-rated movie, and the fights are really, really brutal. There's a lot of gore, and it's really hard-hitting. The fights are really well choreographed. Like, there's some really, really great fight scenes in there. It's a mix of brutal fighting with a little MMA, with martial arts and weapons fighting. It's great. One of the biggest flaws, other than the pacing and the lack of action in the movie, is that I mentioned Henry Cavill's character is kind of weak. Theseus is really no leader, no hero. But then there's this unbelievable moment of character development where he becomes a leader. And I just don't buy it. He's like, no, I'm not fighting this war. I don't believe in the gods. Then all of a sudden he's leading an army, and to add further disbelief, the army suddenly believes in him. They respect him as a leader. But before that, just like seconds before that, they're like, who the hell are you giving us orders? Then he gives this motivating speech, then all of a sudden they're bashing their shields with their swords, chanting his name, and then I just felt, wow, that is so unbelievable. What a turn of events. But you know what? It was great for the movie because he was able to lead the army to a really spectacular battle. Now, with every 3D movie, I have to talk about the 3D. I'd have to say that this is one of the better movies that came out with 3D post-conversion, because I think it helped a lot that this movie was made in almost entirely, if not entirely, on a CG soundstage. And because of that, it gives them the more flexibility to play with the midground and foreground and background 3D effects. So there's a lot of eye-popping visuals out there, but when there are scenes where you get close-ups of just the characters having dialogue or drama sequences, it doesn't really feel like it's 3D. But when you have these grand scenes where you have like mountains in the distance, and then you have another mountain in front of it, like, it really pops out at you. So I'd have to say that this is a winner in terms of they really did a better job with the 3D compared to a lot of other movies that were post-converted. So definitely watch this movie in 3D. My only disappointment is that there is this love scene with Freida Pinto and Henry Cavill, and then Freida Pinto just gets butt naked, and that caught me off guard because I didn't know that was gonna happen. And then Freida Pinto's booty is right in your face, but it was only in 2D. It was right there. It took up 2/3 of the screen, but it was only in 2D. It wasn't in 3D. At least I didn't feel that her booty was in 3D. So that was the only disappointment for me in the 3D sense. But other than that, that's a good-looking post-conversion. I hope they can keep that up, but I hope it's not only movies that are dominated by CG effects. I'd have to give this movie a 6, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. You know, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I was really content with it just because the final battle was good and the 3D was pretty decent, and you had some great fight scenes, some unbelievable character development, but the fight scenes kind of made up for it. But it could have used more of them. What do you think about the movie? Let me know in the comment section below. This is Alex Yoon. Thanks for watching the Ragin Ronin review. Peace. And remember how I mentioned that this movie is a lot like The Fugitive? It really is like that. Cillian Murphy plays Tom Jones' character. Cillian Murphy plays